Strength versus cardio. What do we do? Dr. Jess and I are going to answer that question for you today. But before we get started, welcome back to Two Gals in a Glass Half Full. Dr. Jess, what is in your glass today?
I'm getting started this morning with my cup of coffee, a little bit of half and half, gets me going. Dr. Bobbie, what's in your glass?
I have coffee this morning as well, and my mom fuel. Definitely needed.
I like it. And I'm really glad you brought up this question of which is better, strength or cardio, when we're talking about exercise. And first, I just want to say people make entire careers out of training people with exercise. So this is a topic that's complicated. That's the whole point, that you can have your career as a personal trainer, obviously a physical therapist like Dr. Bobbie and I. You can be a coach. You can have like specificity of coaching within inside of a sport or activity, swimming, running. There's so much to this whole idea of exercise. So the goal for today is we're going to take this really, really large topic that sometimes can feel nebulous, and we're going to start to break that down a little bit and help you to understand, like, what are some of these pieces of exercise, and is one better than the other? So saying that, Dr. Bobbie, when it comes down to cardio, right, and that type of exercise, first, what is that? Like, what does that mean?
So, cardio is involved in getting your heart rate up. There's a lots of different types of cardio, but what we're looking at is kind of getting your heart rate up and sustaining at an increased level. So, you have running, you have walking up and down hills, you have biking, you have swimming. It's really looking at that cardiovascular system.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, I could go out and play a sport, and as long as I stay moving the whole time, it's considered to be cardiovascular exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now,
Yes,
what if I play
absolutely.
baseball and I sit in the dugout for a while? Does that count?
So, no, because you need to keep that heart rate elevated in order for your heart. So, cardiovascular is kind of looking at, Dr. Jess, would you say more at the heart and how your body exchanges oxygen and its efficiency throughout that. So, your cardiovascular system is what gives all your muscles and your organs blood that has it's high in oxygen so it can function. And so when we want to strengthen that, we're looking at improving that system and its efficiency to work. So we need to keep our exercise level up. We need to keep our heart rate up for a sustained amount of time. Now, you can go up and down, but if you're hitting one ball in a baseball and then you're going sitting 20 minutes in the dugout or even 5 minutes in the dugout, that's not going to be considered cardiovascular exercise. It's still great for you, still a lot of benefits, but not cardiovascular.
Yeah. So, a rule of thumb that I typically give people to know, like, is this something that would be considered cardiovascular exercise? Because, like, it's pretty straightforward if you go for a walk for 30 minutes, run for 30 minutes, bike for 30 minutes. But it can be a little bit difficult to discern what if I'm doing a HIIT workout, or what if I'm doing this class in the gym, or what if, like all of these different times that you might
Working
be.
outside in your garden, like if you're laying bricks and, anything that's like hard effort work.
Exactly. So any of that honestly could count. It's just, how are you doing it? So more or less, rule of thumb is you should have your breathing rate should be elevated, right? So when your heart rate increases, your breathing rate is also going to increase. And so you want to keep that increased at what we call a moderate intensity, meaning I can get a sentence out at a time. It's not like I'm gasping for air, but I really want to take a break from that sentence and breathe again. So does that kind of make sense? Like, I'm going
Hmm.
to be like, "Hey, Dr. Bobbie, how's it going today?" And I'm going to want you to answer because I need the break to breathe. Because we're running together, I can hold a conversation, but my breathing rate and my heart rate are staying elevated the whole time. So if I'm out doing yard work and if I want to count that for my exercise, or I'm mowing the yard, I'm just not going to let it drop down to the point where it's low, like lowly elevated, because then I'm not really going to get that benefit of cardiovascular exercise,
Hmm.
which is strengthening my heart's ability to deliver oxygen throughout my body. So the endurance aspect of that circulatory system is what we're training with cardiovascular exercise. So that's just like your basic rule of thumb. Just keep that elevated, heart rate and breathing rate elevated ideally for at least 30 minutes. And then you're going to get, a lot of things accomplished at once. Could be yard work, could be some sort of class at the gym, could be going for a run, going for a walk, going for a swim, doing a bike ride. It really honestly doesn't matter as long as you enjoy it, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
again, heaven forbid you look forward to it. What a concept.
So that's cardiovascular. Now let's recap what strength is before we discuss which we should do. So with strength training, Dr. Joss, what does strength training involve?
Well, strength training just means I'm going to stress my muscles in some way so to make them do work. So, for example, if I think of my biceps are going to bend my elbow. They also help with overhead movement. So, if I want to get my biceps stronger, then I'm just going to resist elbow flexion, right? So, I put a weight in my hand and then I do what's called a bicep curl. So there's going to be specificity of how I strength train, which muscles am I strength training, and am I going for bulking up the muscle or am I going for toning the muscle? So there's a lot of concepts in there that we're going to discuss in a future episode. But more or less, when we're talking about strength training, it's just challenging a muscle or combination of muscles to improve the output of what the muscle does for us in everyday life. So bicep curl is just a very easy example. So, Dr. Bobbie, if you were to start somebody on strength training, right, just like a very like somebody that's not super experienced with what this concept means, where do you typically get started?
This is such a great question, and I think this is where a lot of times, sometimes healthcare providers can really, I don't want to say injure a person, but veer them away from strength training because when someone is just starting out, and I'm so excited, we're going to do a whole episode on this, but when someone's just starting out, you got to start where they are. And if they haven't done any type of strength training, they haven't picked up a weight, you might just need to start with body weight, which means doing a squat up and down without any weight or even sitting to a chair and standing up. Is really finding where that person is and challenging their body appropriately. So, yes, they may be a little sore, but you're not kicking them into that real delayed onset soreness, muscle soreness, and you're not hurting not only their physical, but their mental. Who wants to feel defeated on the first time that they go try something new? They're most likely not going to want to come back to it. So I think it's very important when we start, you start where the person is, and it may just be body weight. It may be some exercises that look so simple, but you'll be surprised how your body feels the next day. In therapy, I don't know about you, Dr. Jess, but I always say it is the simple, easy looking exercises that will get you.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is just really having the understanding of what am I supposed to be working? Like, where in
Mhm.
my body should I feel this muscle contracting? And starting just to get what we call motor learning. So, we've got a part of our brain that's called our motor cortex. And so, the signal that sends to the muscle for what muscle should be doing the work comes from your brain. So if you don't really include this as part of your training, and so that's just overall the concept is called motor learning, and that's how we recruit muscles segmentally through some sort of action that we're asking the body to do, like a bicep curl. If you don't make that connection, you're likely going to start with what we call compensatory patterns, meaning you're going to figure out a way to move the weight in space, to move your body in space, or move the machine in space. You will find a way to do it, but is it doing it the way you should be doing it? And are you using the right muscles? Because this is why people end up getting hurt or straining, plateauing, not reaching goals, things like that. So anytime I'm getting somebody started, wherever they might be, even if they've already started doing stuff, but their form's not clean, we first start with what's the motor recruitment for what we're trying to do. So the concept and the question is, what do I feel? Where do I feel it? If you can't answer those two questions and you're doing a strength based exercise, then you need to figure out how to answer those questions. And if you're working with a personal trainer, they should be able to help you with that. If you're doing this on your own, that's where you just take a pause and say, okay, if I'm here doing my bicep curls, I feel my bicep getting tired. Great. And I feel like it's starting to burn a little. What do I feel? Where do I feel it? Great. That's doing a bicep curl. If you're feeling it in your forearm or at your elbow, right? And you're like, doing a bicep curl, but I feel burning at my elbow, that's probably a compensation with your grip, right? So easy to happen. And so, if you're going to have any sort of consistency with strength based training, then answering those two questions with every exercise you do will help you stay in it, have fun with it, and be able to not plateau because you'll be challenging the correct muscles. So, so Dr. Bobbie, if we think of cardio versus strength, we now know what cardio is and we know what strength training is. Which one is better?
So I think most people probably know trick question, right? We need both.
Right.
And you can incorporate a little bit of both into a routine. So you can combine them in a way. It really depends on what your goals are. If you're looking to run a marathon, you obviously are going to need to get that cardio up and it needs to go up significantly to last you 26 miles. However, if you are not strength training for that marathon, you're not getting the muscles themselves are not going to be strong enough to carry you through that 26 miles. And it's a lot of times where we see some overuse injuries when there is a weakness within certain muscles. So it's really important, and it goes the other way. If you're only doing strength training, you're missing out the benefits of cardio. Your muscles will get better oxygen. The more efficient your heart and your cardiovascular system is, the more you're going to be able to lift, the more you're going to be able to do because it is better at recruiting those muscles. It is getting oxygen faster. So you actually really need to do both. You don't need to do both on the same day, and you don't need to do both every day. Um, cross training, which is like doing different types of exercise, are really important. But you do need to have both of them scheduled in to your week. Dr. Jess, what does your strength and cardio training look like? Just day wise and time wise.
So I do overall goals for cardio, just so you know. 150 minutes a week of cardiovascular exercise is what's recommended for heart health, lung health, because it's the lungs that oxygenate, get the oxygen to the blood. So those work together. Plus, we get brain benefits with that 150 minutes per week. Um, so I break that up into 3 days. So I do mornings just for my schedule that works best. So I do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings for run days. Strength days, I do 2 days a week for strength training. And so those days I do on my off days for my run days. And I always include mobility flexibility on all of the days. And we'll do another video on this active warm up and cool down and how to incorporate those into your workouts. So I in total do 5 days a week of specific training, right? So, and then on my sixth day is normally some sort of functional based activity. I'm out in the yard, I'm doing heavy yard work, I might be mowing, I might be doing something like that, but I use that as time to keep my heart rate elevated and go. So I am that
Mhm.
crazy person that jogs and pushes the mower. I'm that person. It's okay. I get it done faster and I get cardio in. I mean, I'm just checking boxes. Like I don't have time to like walk and push the mower. I don't have time
Yeah.
for that, you know? Um so anyway, that's more or less what my week looks like. So that way I'm getting it all balanced, but I can keep and then I have one day of rest. Like one day where I don't do
Do
anything, which for
anything.
me is normally Sundays. Yeah.
So, real fast before we head out for this episode, I know you've created a really awesome course to kind of help people decide where to start with exercise. Can you tell us just real briefly about that?
Yeah. So yeah, it's called Exercise Where to Start. And in this course, you go through a series of modules, and it's just kind of step by step, 4 different modules. And it starts with the do I have what I need to exercise? So it's, well, first it's what is exercise, then it's do I have what I need? Meaning, do I have the range of motion, let's say in my shoulders, to lift overhead? Do I have the range of motion in my hips and in my ankles to do a squat with proper form so that I don't end up having some sort of injury? So first it's, do you have what you need? If you don't, I send you through a checklist of how to get what you need, so corrective exercises. Then we move into, what is whole body strengthening? How do I structure a full circuit? And how do I build a cardio program and progress a cardio program? So it's a way to really take a step back, understand the big picture of exercise, get yourself started safely, and then build out strength training for whole body concept strength training so that you keep it balanced, and build out your cardio program and know how to progress that cardio program. So it puts you in the driver's seat instead of you having to rely on somebody, like, and that's expensive, like working with a personal trainer or a running coach or something like that. And that's great if you can afford it. If you can't, which a lot of people can't, it's just a barrier, or it's the time commitment because you might be working and don't have the time to take care of a family and work and get to the gym so for me, like, I don't go to a gym. I run from my house. I work out in my backyard because I can have my kids with me, or I do it while they're still sleeping. So it just works out better for my schedule at this point in my life. So if you're interested in that, we'll have a link in the description, and we'll have a discount code in there for anybody that's listening to this episode. You'll get the discount. Others don't.
And you can also go to twogals.com. It's the number two dash gals, GALS.com. And you can see it there along with some of our favorite things.
Absolutely. So make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, because we're going to, like, all the information we put out there is really meant to be helpful to living that active lifestyle. Ideally, we include a lot of the wellness based concepts and just help you grow one step at a time for making tangible steps. All right, everybody.